Fellas, you got to recognize your wife when she's right there in your face. And ladies, we're going to help you to know if you are acting like your wifey material, if you're ready to be married, or if you need to work on some things. So for that reason, I have with me today my husband in the studio. Anthony, thank you for joining me again, love.
Greetings. Happy to be here as always.
Okay, so as I said, we're talking about wifey material. And I know for us, we kind of shared a little bit about our relationship before when we did this show together. But I know there were probably some key factors that stood out to you that helped you recognize if I was wifey material. So what was those key factors that stood out to you?
When we first got started, we can go ahead and get good and comfy in this session today. But like I was saying, a couple things that when we first got started, I had a list, in my head that the type of woman I wanted, she had to have a couple of things. And I can't remember exactly everything on that list. I'm not going to front. But a few of them I knew exactly. Number one, she had to trust in God. She had to believe in the same. Our belief system had to be the same. Mm-hmm. Our belief system, who she called God and all that had to be the same. There's no way we was going to be walking two different directions like that.
Right.
So we had to believe the same, doctrine of faith in Jesus Christ. That was number one. Number two, I wanted my wife to have a college degree. Number three, I wanted her to have her own job. Mm-hmm. Number four, I wanted her to have her own house or apartment. Number five, I wanted her to have her own car. Did I already say that?
No.
Yeah, her own car. Those three things, for me, number one.
Hold on, you just gave a list of 5?
No, I was coming back. I was going to single out 3 of the 5.
Okay.
Yeah, the 3 things: the car, the job, and the own house, showed me, number one, that she's independent of herself and she's already working towards something.
Wow.
So that I already knew, so that if she and I were to get together, I wouldn't be lopsiding the relationship with the job or the house or the car or anything like that. That to me showed that she brought more to the table than just wanting to be married and just be end up a mommy and things like that. She was
That's
already
good.
working.
That's good. So I understand you also had a few prospects prior to me. How did you know that they were not the one? I mean, I understand you had a list, but you didn't spend much time finding out if they were the one or not. How did you know that early on?
Well, over in the Middle East, it's funny. I always go to this example, but they the parents actually arrange their children to be married. So a couple of young ladies that we were just talking and things like that. We were interested in each other, nothing serious, anything like that. Maybe went out for a bite to eat and went out to a movie here or there. Nothing major. So not like just playing the field, but we had interest in. There's a couple of young ladies. One of the things that really done it for me was my father actually picked you out of everybody and said that you were the one I needed to speak to. And so my father, knowing his background, growing up rough and tough in the streets, and all of his experience there, his experience as a Marine, just having a lot of life experience in general, his advice never led me wrong. Mm-hmm. And so how did I know amongst the other couple of young ladies that I may have been talking to or whatever, I knew from the standpoint of once my father gave me the stamp of approval, I knew pretty much everything was good to go.
So how did he manage to point me out of all the females that I was surrounded around?
I'm gonna say, shoot, he'll probably need to be on the show to answer that one. I'm not sure, but at the time,
I mean, did you put any bugs in his ear? Did you make mention of me to him at all? I mean, what made him just randomly point me out?
We did make notice of the young ladies who were could be contenders or whatever. The church we went to at the time, where he served as security among other things, and so he watched the congregation a lot. Mm-hmm. And so what stood you out, I guess, was I guess he saw you overall. Like I said, you probably have to have him on to answer that question. But I just knew once he had really spoke highly of you. Mm-hmm. This was before you and I ever really had any interaction. He spoke highly of you.
Mm-hmm.
and he could just tell. He told me, just an experience, that you look like you had something going for you more than just than what I could see.
Now, mind you, everybody, this is prior to me having any conversations with either one of them. Like, I never knew his father. I didn't even know it was his father at the time. And I only knew Anthony because he randomly introduced himself one day to me. But I didn't think anything of it. But go ahead and continue.
No, that's pretty much it, So, for example, I believe it's India. I want to speak educatively about this, but I think overseas in India, the parents of the two children, they get together, and I think they just find compatibility early on,
wow.
with the two children and things like that. And typically, statistically, it's shown that those marriages that are arranged by parents in India, I believe it's like a high 90% percentage rate that those marriages stay together for a lifetime.
Right.
Whereas in the United States, it seems like 50% of marriages make it or not. I mean, it's really a poor statistic as far as what marriages survive and which ones don't here in the States. But I thought that spoke highly. I said, okay, well, the parents were doing the choosing for the children. I always was really opposed to thinking of that growing up, in America, where you feel like, oh, you have a right to everything up under the sun. But, the parents could see something that the kids couldn't see, at that particular age. And so I joke all the time, my father and I say, I technically had an arranged marriage. I just had one parent involved, though.
Wow. Well, I know for me, I kind of knew I was ready for marriage. And so, as a result, I started working more so on me, working on me as a person, trying to make sure I was whole, complete, because you don't want to go into a marriage broken. You don't want to go into a marriage all screwed up. Of course, you're going to have some issues, and that's something that people deal with over a course of a lifetime. Exactly. You're going to always have something that you're trying to get over. There's always going to be a point for you to grow. For me, at that point, it was more so being secure in who I am, being secure in my relationship, and not allowing him to pay for past mistakes that other people may have done to me. And so, even on top of that, I realized I had to learn how to trust again. And he gained my trust early on. And so that's one of the things that really stood out to me about you, is the fact that early on in the relationship, you helped me to establish a level of trust with you just by the way you carried yourself. And it made me just think, okay, maybe this is the one. But like you, I also had a list. And people, we did not discuss our list with each other like out the gate just to try to see if we measured up to each other's list. Like, no, this was something in the back of my head. I had a list of things that I wanted in my husband, and when I found out he possessed at least 90% of that, I was like, okay, game is on. But even on top of that, I was still kind of like a little nervous about the newness of our relationship. I was nervous about whether or not we were going to succeed, if we were going to take it to the next level, if this was my husband to be. Because, like I said, even though most of the things that were on my list lined up, I still had to build my trust up again. And I was so guarded, I didn't want to be hurt again. And I think Anthony could share with you about that, how guarded I was. Like, he had to break through a wall, basically. But needless to say, I've learned to trust him, and ever since then, I've been so happy. It's been like one of the best decisions in my life. But as I said, I worked on me. So I knew, okay, go to school, graduate, go ahead and get a job. And I didn't just want any job. I wanted to pursue my dreams. So my first job out of college was exactly where I set my sights on in high school. And that's radio. And here I am still doing radio because it's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I love doing. But I was really into the whole broadcasting thing. And so I did radio, I did TV, and I have no regrets about the path that I have decided to take along my life journey. On top of that, I said I wanted to be married before I had kids. And so I may have had my nephews from time to time, but other than that, you really didn't see me with kids just hanging from my hip. Like, I wanted to make sure I had it together. And so I would say to you ladies who are trying to prepare to be a wife, make sure you have your ducks in a row. Make sure you got your money right, because you got to take care of home. You can't just be carelessly spending. Make sure you are mindful that one day you're going to be a wife. So you need to learn how to keep your house together right now. Learn how to manage your finances. And if you do have a child, okay, make sure you're taking care of your child to the best of your ability. There should never be a point where you look better than your child and your child looks a hot mess.
And some other things too, because we are living in, a day and time where, it can be common to where, a mother is trying to start again, and she may have she may have a daughter, she may have a son, she may have 2 children, and she may be doing working as a single mother, to make it for her family. One of the things, one of the things that I think is very important is that, if you're looking to be a wife, and we say jokingly wifey, just using the cultural vernacular of the day, but in looking, how do you know if you're wife material? A candidate that's, a viable candidate for husband, is, even if you do have a child or 2, if he, if he's courting you, speaking to you young ladies out there, there should be no drama in your household concerning you and the child and the children's father.
That's good.
If he's coming around and he's courting you, pardon me, and he's considering you seriously, and you guys are considering each other seriously in that regard, there needs to be no drama, from the past relationship anywhere.
Right.
Because that could be one of the biggest things, turn that gentleman away who's serious about you, whether it's from child support or visitation privileges and things like that. If you're done with that gentleman from the past, then you need to be done with him in every way, in every way. And I mean, that means intimately, physically, emotionally, all of that.
Now, that's not to say to cut him off from the child, though.
Exactly. Not saying that, because if the man is trying to be there for his children, there's no reason to be cutting that off. But drama, that man coming into is courting you and moving forward in a new direction. There shouldn't be any question whether you have any type of ties or attraction or connection to the child's father at all. There needs to be no drama there, and you need to be moving on mature in that direction.
I recently read someone's status on Facebook, and I just want to share with you all real quick. It says, ladies, it is not your responsibility to give wifely benefits to someone you are dating or a significant other. You don't have to cook for him, clean his home, or his clothes. You don't have to be his helpmeet and help with his bills or his kids or his personal responsibilities. And you most definitely do not have to meet his sexual needs. Too many women give too much too soon and make a man comfortable outside of marriage. So why should he marry you when he is getting the benefits of a wife without the marriage? You do not have to prove that you will be a good wife. He should already see that in your character and the way you carry yourself. Too many times a woman will give her all based on what a man says he will do, only to be disappointed time and time again when he does not follow through. Dating should be fun and a time of getting to know one another and spending time together. If a man wants more from you than that, he is not stupid. He knows what time it is. So ladies, when a man is serious about you, he will make you a priority, and he will do what he needs to do to make you his life partner, wife. Do not waste your time on someone who only offers you the possibility. You are worthy and deserving of the promise, and the right man will give that to you. Anthony, I want to know, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, do you feel like women should show themselves as wives at all prior to getting married, or save all the cooking, cleaning, and paying bills and all that for after marriage?
I think what that young lady, pardon me, I think that young lady spoke of was perfect and was on point. What she spoke of was really one of the only reasons why I was able to date you, court you, and still desire you, to go on further to marriage. Because, one thing in particular, in relation to what that young lady, spoke of and what she shared on her post, was in our relationship, you made it clear that we're not going to the bedroom.
Right.
We weren't going to the bedroom until marriage. And so I had to get to know who you were, and was already, once the attraction was already there and things like that, I had to know more, and I had to see more. And I mean, you kept me hanging on. You kept me wanting more, because after we established, love for each other and things like that, I still could not, there was no way that this was, as my significant other. And so, that right there, that's good. But that's right there. That was really one of the best things, because I knew that if we had experienced that and took it to that place of intimacy sexually with one another, that I would have prolonged. I know as a man, I would have prolonged proposal. I would have prolonged marrying you, and you would have been just common. Because a man looks to conquer in a relationship, and once he's conquered that whole sexual interaction one-on-one is a form as a man is that makes a man feel that he's conquered, something. And so you always kept that withheld. You did not allow the kissing and touching to go further from what was considered decency and things like that. You always kept a rein on that every day of our relationship. I mean, that
it had to be somebody. That's all I'm gonna say.
And that's true. I'm not gonna lie. Every relationship has different dynamics, but you never wavered. You always held your convictions, and that made me even want you even more.
Wow.
So moving forward with that, you had all the character, you had the things that lined up that I was looking for, and and just another thing I just like to speak and say, people think that it's just one person out there in all the world for you. No, I mean, there's several. I mean, you can. I mean. And I think I was talking to my sister. It was like, well, if your wife wasn't alive, could you remarry or something like that? You can find, there's somebody out there for everybody.
Wow.
There's not just one person on this earth. If you don't find them by the time you're 25 or 26, then you're not going to get married. No, there's, and I say that to say, there's people who possess those characteristics and qualities that are worthy of being married. It's just, have you found them yet? And a lot of times they're skewed. You won't be able to see all of that if you enter in with sexual relationship with a spouse. I mean, with a girlfriend or boyfriend before the proper time. You won't be able to see that
because it clouds up your view. And so I can definitely agree with you on that. But not only that, I just love the fact that we really just got to know each other, like personally. We got to know the ins and outs of each other, and it helped the fact that we did wait to marriage. That helped a lot, I would say.
But we also had help. We also had help.
We had accountability,
we
big
also
time.
had several people of our church family, who were not nosy, but who were aware of our relationship. And we had family members, we had church members and people that we knew, that we trusted, that believed the same thing, who had high character, who didn't have problems checking in on us and asking us where I was at. I mean, that was really one of the health of our relationships as well. We didn't want to be embarrassed in their presence, so we had people helping us get to that point.
And not only that, I mean, they didn't just check in on us. Sometimes we just told on ourselves, hey, we may have kissed too much, or I mean, we would we took it too far, and we would expose ourselves a lot of time. And I think just the fact that we was willing to be open about our relationship to those trusted individuals, that really help us to stay kept.
I agree. Why don't we also talk about what is Wifey Material, just for the sake of time, making sure you can get this out before your show, for the time of the show, if that's all right with you, from a man's perspective.
Okay.
Some of the things that I wanted to share, and then we can get back to some of the other details of the conversation as well. But number one, in my opinion, as a man, I'm speaking from just a male's perspective, period. Wifey Material for me, it all, my antenna went up when you made the stand and you said there will be no type of sexual interaction until marriage. Wife Material, that's number one, that set that aside, because as a girlfriend in today's world, a lot of people, all you got to do is turn on some of the latest, R&B, set the mood, and that young lady's ready to go there. When a man knows he can have sex anytime he pleases, that diminishes a woman, no matter how much he loves her or cares for her. I have cousins and things like that they've been with their baby mothers and things like that. I mean, their baby fathers, they've been with them for years now. I have friends that have been in relationships for years now, never married. I know you do as well, because they took it to that step. But that's one thing to me that distinguishes Wifey Material. Number two, distinguishes, I'll say this till the day I die, knowing that woman has her own. And when I met you, you weren't dependent upon your mother or your father. You weren't dependent upon their income. You weren't living up under their roof. You weren't driving their car or a friend's car.
So let me ask you right there on that point. The Bible talks about how a man leaves his father and mother, and I think that's more so of speaking of humankind, when you leave your father or your mother and you cleave. And so I know, for example, your mom, she went from the house straight to marriage, right? She left from her mother's house and went straight into marriage.
That's correct.
Do you think that's still okay at all in today's stage?
Well, it just depends. It just depends on the situation. I think every situation, every circumstance is different, But in this day and time, with the modern times in life that we're living now, most young people are they're graduating high school, they're going away to college, or they're starting to work. There's a lot of young people that they get out on their own, and they're on. I know plenty of friends and things like that, and clients that I've had, in their after high school days, they've gone out and got established on their own. Not many productive. I'd say not many productive and mature young people are staying at home later these days. As it more was common and traditional. Back in the times when my mother got married and things like that.
I got you. I know I wanted to talk a little bit about what men should be looking for as well. Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to bring up is, fellas, if you know that she will cheat with you, then 9 times out of 10 she will cheat on you. And I think that works both ways. So if you end up talking to somebody that you knew was already in a relationship and they're willing to step out, then 9 times out of 10 they'll do the same to you.
I think that's very important. Chastity is a lost word nowadays in today's society, but it's still a word. It still has meaning. Chastity, purity. I think that both parties, but need to be chaste. Which is the base word of chastity, but which is morally pure, sexually pure, and clean. But it also means that I think that for Wifey Material, for a young man to find that, she needs to be emotionally and sexually chaste, which means her emotions are not shared and spread all over the place to every man, to every relationship that she's in.
That's good.
And, her body, especially her body, what I mean? There's going to be times, there's going to be certain circumstances and things like that where people have matured and, they may not be a virgin anymore, but, you yourself, you were chaste sexually, you were chaste emotionally. That's what makes a woman, in my opinion, a wife material, because she's not giving herself through all kind of conversation, to every man, that she's not spreading herself all over the place, because if a man is a husband, he's looking for a woman that is going to be, that he's going to be able to share her heart alone. It shouldn't be with Sam and Rob and Bob and all those people have a place in her heart.
Absolutely.
Outside of the husband. So those are two things: that chastity, that purity, that exclusiveness. Definitely needs to become a point, and it also needs to be a point of I'd like to say this here in the cure. I don't take it over you. It needs to be a point of self-control.
Oh yes,
as well. Self-control is very important as well, because if a person can't control themselves sexually, whether the sexual boundaries, of denying themselves into marriage, or period, just the whole self-control nature, period. Then that's a red flag. Then she won't be able to self-control herself. Once 2 incomes start instead of 1. Emotions. She won't be able to control herself then, and things like that. So self-control is a big thing for me.
And on that point, I mean, if she's spending money all the time on the fashions, don't expect it to change just because you all get married. So
she almost might think she has more liberty, because then there'll be 2 incomes
right
in the house instead of 1.
Right. I know one thing you brought up to my attention when we were dating is one of the qualities you wanted in your wife. And this is why we're going through premarital counseling, I believe. Right. One of the qualities you spoke of is grace. Having someone that's very graceful, and you related it back to your mother. And so, fellas, you got to be mindful of how she reacts to trying circumstances? How do she react to you all's differences when when she's put under pressure? How does she respond? Because that's going to say a lot about her character. Pay attention to the red flags now, because it's not going to change just because you get married.
Right, and I agree. You know, we're in this age of reality TV where, you know, for example, certain shows like Basketball Wives and Love and Hip Hop and things like this, and different talk shows where it just seems, and it's on every meme and it's on every, you know, post, and it gets 1,000, you know, it gets 1 million likes on Facebook, things like that. And I'm talking about the standpoint of a woman who has a loud mouth. You know, you know, loud mouth, and who will speak her mind and tell anybody off in a minute and set everything straight and cuss you up and down and things like that. That's not a desirable characteristic, you know, in a wife, because, you know, a wife who doesn't know her place and doesn't know how to, you know, a lot of times the heart of the wife, her voice, when she's spoken in a household, it normally calms and settles everything down. The man's voice normally gives direction. The wife's voice is normally the gentle, calm, you know, peace that's spoken in the house. You know,
better share some knowledge, boy.
You know, so
I didn't even know that.
You know, so, I mean, that just goes against today's time. You know, the media is going to sell whatever's going to sell. You know. So what I think it needs to just be important to recognize is, and not everything that the media is selling and pitching, you know, over the airways and radio waves and TV screen is what makes a good wife. Because if you notice in all those Basketball Wives, Love and Hip Hop, all those pretty young girls and things like that, they're so torn down and broken and unhappy, you know, because why? You know, they have all those crazy ways that's pushing their man away.
Right. And I mean, think about it. If she has such a strong personality or overbearing personality, then you have to know, okay, how are y'all going to be able to work out things? Because I know one thing about marriage is 9 times out of 10, opposites attract.
Right.
So where she's weak at, you're strong, and where she's strong at, you're weak. And so your needs, or not so much needs, but you're supposed to be able to complement each other.
That's right.
And complete each other. Whatever areas you are deficient in, the other one should be able to make up for.
That's right. And I also say that, you know, what we're talking about here is not an exhaustive, complete list of things that you know, bespeak of a wife material. You know, what we're talking about here, we're just really, you know, just delving into it. So there's really much more to that than just the few points that we've been able to bring up. But you know, the point that I wanted to get at, you know, with you talking about being able to meet each other's needs and things like that. When it comes to wifey material, but I do, and you know, and speaking about her being overbearing, I do want to be careful and say that, you know, in today's time, you know, women are not who they were back in the 90s and they were in the 80s and the 70s. So women, you know, they definitely need a voice today. You know, because women are competing for jobs just like men now in the marketplace. So there's nothing wrong with a woman being outspoken and things like that. It's just both parties knowing, you know, when to speak and when to honor that other one and things like that.
She needs to know her role.
And the men as well. So, you know, we're not just getting on women, but the men, you know, the men as well. And I think when parties do know their roles, you know, that makes for a beneficial, healthy relationship.
Right. I know we only got a couple more minutes before we got to close out the show, but one of the things that I've been wanting to talk about, and I'm starting to see more and more of this, is women proposing.
Mm-hmm. That's out of the question. That's a negative. I don't care now. I'm sorry. Go ahead and say your part.
I just don't agree with it, because
and I don't either.
I feel like if she's bold enough to propose, then 9 times out of 10 she's going to run the show.
Right. Or what was he doing? You know what I mean? I think it's already been said. You know, it's not in the Bible or anything like that. But it's the man that finds the wife. Finds a good thing. The Bible does say that.
Right.
You know, so I think that, you know, the man is to always lead the way when it comes to that. You
Absolutely.
know? A woman should never do that, because the woman is the one who should be provided for, protected, and taken care of, and things like that. You know, at the end of the day, if she proposes, then that man needs to have her last name. You know what I'm saying? That's how I think, you know. And that's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So if she proposed, why should she take his last name? You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense at all. You know, we just get in a lot of blurred lines nowadays in the culture and and in the world as we live it, when we need to bring it back to the basics. But that, you know, that's a negative.
Right.
You know,
and
that should never be happening.
I think when women propose, it just says, it speaks volumes of their relationship. It tells me that she's the one running the show behind the scenes, whereas the man is supposed to lead out. The woman is supposed to submit. And so if she's getting on her knee, then what is he doing? Like you said. But I just wanted to touch on that real quick. I know we got to wrap it up. Did you have any final closing remarks?
I love you out there, and for you ladies, you know, I tell you this, you know, this thought came to my mind. Our lives are really a masterpiece. So, you know, so what in the heck are we rushing for? You know, what in the heck are we rushing for to be made? You know, to hurry up and get this, to get that, and get that, you know, to look like everybody else. You know, our lives are really a masterpiece in the making, you know, and allow God to continue to shape and mold you, you know, one day at a time. We'll be found by her King in the right time, you know. Don't rush it. Let every facet of your character be made in its due time, in its due season, you know, and you'll be all right, you know. And when the time comes, you know, marriage will find you, and you'll be ready for it.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say, ladies, know your worth. When you step out in public, make sure you look like a queen at the very least. Don't go out looking like you're just somebody looking for nobody.
Amen.
So, with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us this wonderful Saturday.
Yes, we love you.
Of course, you could download the broadcast and play it back again in case you need those friendly reminders. Again, join us next Saturday, same time, same place. It's the Love Factor, Kiara D and their hubby signing out. And their hubby signing out.